The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for over 50,000 years. They believed they knew everything about the universe. They had mapped every system, every species, and recorded the history of countless civilizations. But there was one small blue planet at the edge of an unremarkable spiral arm that they had always avoided: Earth. The elders called it the Forbidden World. Ancient texts warned against disturbing it, but those texts were old, and the young commanders of the empire did not believe in old stories. They believed in power. They believed in conquest. And they believed that Earth, with its primitive humans and their simple technology, would fall within hours. Admiral stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Devourer. Behind him floated a fleet of 3,000 vessels, each one capable of destroying a small moon. He looked at the blue planet on his screen and smiled with his many teeth. "Begin the invasion," he commanded. The first wave of ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. They expected no resistance. Human weapons were laughable compared to technology. Their missiles could not pierce shields. Their aircraft were slow and weak. This would be the easiest conquest in the history of the Empire. But something strange happened as the ships crossed into Earth's space. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a trench so deep that no human had ever reached its bottom, something ancient opened its eyes for the first time in 4 billion years. The entity had no name that any mortal tongue could speak. It had existed before the first star ignited. It had watched the birth of galaxies and the death of universes. Long ago, when Earth was nothing but a ball of molten rock, it had chosen this world as its resting place. It had slept through the age of dinosaurs. It had slept through the rise of humanity. It had dreamed peaceful dreams while continents shifted and oceans formed. But it had also made a promise older than time itself. It would protect this world and its children from any threat that came from beyond the stars. The ships were still descending when the ocean began to boil. Admiral watched his screens in confusion as strange readings appeared. Energy signatures unlike anything in the databases. The water of Earth's largest ocean was rising, climbing into the sky as if gravity had reversed itself. And from within that impossible tower of water, something was emerging. It was vast beyond comprehension. The warships were like insects compared to its smallest appendage. Its form shifted and changed, never quite solid, never quite defined. It existed in dimensions that mortal eyes could not process. Some who looked upon it directly went instantly mad. Others simply forgot how to breathe. The entity rose above the Earth, and for one terrible moment, the entire galaxy felt its presence. On the galactic councils, 12,000 light-years away, the ancient archives suddenly activated for the first time in 30,000 years. Holographic warnings filled the chambers in languages that no living being could read. The counselors fled in terror, not understanding what was happening, but knowing in their bones that something terrible had awakened. On 100 different worlds, beings who had never met each other woke from sleep screaming the same word: Guardian. Admiral tried to order a retreat, but his voice died in his throat. The entity turned its attention toward the fleet and in that moment understood how small he truly was. He had conquered a dozen worlds. He had destroyed civilizations. He had believed himself powerful, but compared to this being, he was nothing, less than nothing. He was a single grain of sand trying to challenge the ocean. The entity spoke, and its voice echoed not through the vacuum of space, but through the minds of every being in the fleet. "You dare threaten my children?" It was not a question. It was a statement of fact, heavy with the weight of cosmic judgment. The fleet did not explode. It did not burn. It simply ceased to exist. 3,000 warships, each one a marvel of engineering, each one crewed by thousands of soldiers, vanished as if they had never been. The entity did not destroy them. It simply decided that they should not be, and the universe obeyed. On Earth, billions of humans looked up at the sky and saw nothing unusual. The entity had shielded them from the battle, protected them from the terrible sight of its true form. To them, it was just another ordinary day. They went to work. They ate their meals. They laughed and loved and lived, completely unaware that their ancient guardian had just erased an invasion fleet from existence. But the rest of the galaxy knew. The rest of the galaxy trembled. The Galactic Council held an emergency session within hours. Representatives from 1,000 species gathered, their faces pale with fear. The Empire had lost its entire Third Fleet in an instant. No distress signals, no survivors, no wreckage, just silence where 3,000 ships had been. "What happened?" demanded the Emperor, his voice shaking with rage and terror. "What destroyed my fleet?" The eldest member of the council, a being so ancient that none remembered his species' name, rose slowly from his seat. His body was frail, but his eyes held the weight of. "The Guardian has awakened," he said simply. The chamber fell silent. "That is a myth," someone said, "a story to frighten children." The elder shook his head. "I have lived for 11,000 years. I have seen empires rise and fall like waves upon a shore, and I remember the last time someone disturbed the forbidden world." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "The Dominion. Do any of you remember them?" No one did. The Dominion had once ruled half the galaxy. Their empire had lasted for 100,000 years, and then, 60,000 years ago, they had sent a fleet to Earth. "There is no record of what happened to them," the elder continued. "No ruins, no artifacts, no genetic traces in any species. They simply vanished from existence. Even our memories of them are incomplete, fragmentary, as if the universe itself is trying to forget they ever existed." The Emperor sat down heavily. His hands were trembling. "What is this guardian?" asked a young delegate from a species that had only recently achieved. "Is it a god?" The elder considered the question for a long moment. "We do not know what it is. Our oldest records, dating back to the formation of the Council, contain only warnings. Do not approach the forbidden world. Do not harm its inhabitants. Do not wake the sleeper in the deep." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. "We believe the Guardian chose Earth as its resting place billions of years ago. We believe it has shaped that world, protected it, nurtured the life that evolved there. The humans are not aware of its existence. They believe they are alone in the universe. They do not know that they sleep in the arms of something older than the stars." The implications settled over the council like a funeral shroud. "The humans are protected," someone said flatly. "Not just protected," the elder replied. "Chosen. We do not know why. We do not know what makes them special. But the Guardian has claimed them as its own, and no force in this universe or any other can challenge that claim." In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The Galactic Council issued its strongest decree in history. Earth was declared absolutely forbidden. Any approach within 10 light-years would be considered an act of war against the Council itself. The Empire, humbled and terrified, all its forces from that sector of space. But even as the galaxy pulled back from Earth, something else was happening. Scientists and philosophers began to study the humans from afar, using long-range sensors and intercepted communications. What they found amazed them. The humans were nothing special. They were a young species, barely out of their primitive age. Their technology was crude. They were short. They fought wars among themselves over trivial things. They polluted their own world and squandered their resources. And yet there was something else, something harder to define. The humans created art that moved alien hearts to tears. They composed music that resonated across species barriers. They told stories that touched on universal truths. They loved fiercely, hoped endlessly, and dreamed of reaching the stars. Perhaps some theorized that was why the Guardian had chosen them. Not for their strength, but for their potential. Not for what they were, but for what they might become. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the Guardian settled back into its ancient slumber. Its purpose was fulfilled. Its children were safe. It could feel them above 6 billion points of light, each one precious beyond measure. They did not know it existed. They did not know it watched over them, and that was as it should be. But it left a fragment of its consciousness alert, forever watchful, forever waiting. If any threat ever approached again, it would wake. It would rise, and it would remind the universe why Earth was called the Forbidden World. The humans continued their lives, unaware of the cosmic drama that had unfolded above their heads. They went to school and to work. They fell in love and had children. They built cities and wrote books and painted paintings. They looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. They were not alone. They had never been alone. And they were protected by something that even the greatest empires of the galaxy feared to challenge. In the halls of the Galactic Council, a new saying emerged among the delegates. It was spoken in whispers, passed from one generation to the next, a warning and a reminder of humanity's unique place in the cosmos. Be kind to the humans, they said, for something ancient loves them, and it is watching. And across the galaxy, civilizations that had once looked upon Earth with contempt began to look upon it with wonder. What was it about these strange, short-lived beings that had earned them the protection of a cosmic entity? What destiny awaited them among the stars? No one knew, but everyone agreed on one thing. When the humans finally reached the galaxy, they would be welcomed as the children of the Guardian. They would be treated with respect, with honor, with something approaching reverence. For the ancient protector of Earth had stirred, and the entire galaxy had learned to tremble, not from fear alone, but from awe at the mystery of a small blue world and the impossible beings that called it home. The universe had many secrets, but none were as profound as the secret of Earth and its sleeping guardian. And as the humans dreamed of the stars dreamed of meeting them, wondering what new chapter would begin when the children of the Forbidden World finally took their place among the cosmos.